On a cold January day in 2005, a dark secret began to unfold in the small town of East Moline, Illinois. 16-year-old Adrian Reynolds had just moved to the area full of dreams and eager to make new friends. But within weeks, those dreams were brutally cut short. Behind the walls of a high school cafeteria, tensions were brewing: jealousy, betrayal, and simmering anger. At the center of it all were two classmates, Sarah Kolb and Corey Gregory, whose charm and normal teenage appearances hid something far more sinister. What began as a seemingly ordinary meet-up between friends quickly spiraled into an act of unthinkable violence. Adrian was lured into a car where heated words turned into a deadly confrontation. What happened next would shock the community to its core, a murder so calculated and cold that it defied the innocence associated with youth. As police unraveled the tangled web of lies, they discovered not only the chilling details of Adrian's final moments, but also the disturbing lengths her killers went to in order to erase every trace. This is the story of friendship turned fatal and the horrifying reality that evil can wear the face of someone you think you know. Classification: homicide characteristics. Juvenile, 17. Dismemberment. Number of victims: 1. Date of murder: January 21st, 2005. Date of birth: November 2nd, 1987. Victim profile: Adrian Reynolds, female, 16. Method of murder: strangulation with a belt. Location: Rock Island, Illinois, USA. Status: sentenced to 45 years in prison on July 13, 2006. Teen accused in killing, dismembering of 16-year-old classmate, sentenced to prison. July 11, 2006. Rock Island, Ilka AP, a teenager accused of helping his ex-girlfriend kill and dismember a 16-year-old classmate last year, was sentenced Monday to 45 years in prison. Corey Gregory, 18, had pleaded guilty in April to murder and concealment of a homicide in the death of Adrian Reynolds. "All I really want to do is apologize. It's all I really can do," Gregory said. "If I could give my life to bring her back, I would." Prosecutors agreed to the plea deal after consulting with Reynolds' family, who held vigil through a long trial and retrial in which Gregory's former girlfriend was convicted of murder. Rock Island County State's Attorney Jeff Torrez has said, Gregory led authorities to remains that might never have been found and agreed to meet with Reynolds' family and explain his role in the slaying. Prosecutors say Gregory and Sarah Kolb, 18, killed Reynolds in Kolb's car at a fast food restaurant on Jan 21, 2005, then took the body to Kolb's grandparents' farm and burned it. The pair returned 2 days later with a third teen and sawed the body into pieces, dumping some remains on the farm and burying the rest in a state park, according to prosecutors. Prosecutors said Kolb was angry because Reynolds, who had recently moved to the state, was taking her friends and had shown interest in Kolb's boyfriend and Gregory. Corey Gregory, sentenced July 20th, 2006. Rock Island. Corey Gregory was given the maximum sentence of 45 years in prison for killing, burning and dismembering 16-year-old Adrian Reynolds. In January 2005, there was a fight between teenagers in a Taco Bell parking lot that left Reynolds dead. Then at a farm in Millersburg, Illinois, the teens burned and dismembered her body before hiding the remains at Black Hawk State Park. One of the teens, Corey Gregory, led police to Reynolds' body just days after the murder. Adrian's uncle Mike McCollum says if it weren't for Gregory, this case might be unsolved, like the murder of his friend Joan Napton. "They never would have found her body," he said. "They'd still be looking for her." Adrian's father, Tony Reynolds, says he'll never forgive Corey Gregory and Sarah Kolb for taking away his daughter, even though Gregory did plead guilty to the crime which saved the family the agony of a third trial. "I didn't want anybody to think just because he showed them where the body was that he'd done anyone a favor," he said. "He put it there." On the other side of the courtroom on Monday was Corey Gregory's mother, Teresa Gregory, who wept when her son's future was handed down. Gregory will get out of prison in his 60s. I love my son Corey very much, and I hope that someday the Reynolds family can find peace and forgiveness, she said. Before handing down the maximum sentence, Judge Walter Broad said one thing missing from the plea deal is why and what actually happened to Adrian. That's something the Reynolds family doesn't expect to ever hear. Today they did hear an apology. Gregory said he would give his life to bring Adrian back. I guess he's glad he said it, said Tony Reynolds. I guess I'm glad I heard it. It doesn't change a whole lot. It still won't bring Adrian back. Corey Gregory will serve all of the 40 years for the murder charge. He gets no credit for good behavior, but he does get credit for time served on the concealment charge. Gregory's attorney doesn't expect an appeal to be filed. July 10, 2006. An apologetic Corey Gregory was sentenced today to 45 years in prison for the death of classmate Adrian Reynolds, even after the victim's uncle requested leniency for the teenage killer. At a sentencing beset with tears from everyone but the Moline Teen Rock Island County Circuit Court Judge Walter Broad handed down the maximum sentence allowed by the plea agreement reached with prosecutors. All I really want to do is apologize. It's all I really can do, Mr. Gregory said, a hint of sadness coming from his voice. If I could give my life to bring her back, I would. Outside the normal arguing over how much of the possible 20 to 40 years for first-degree murder, Mr. Gregory would serve the greatest surprise even to Rock Island County State's Attorney Jeff Terranez came when Mike McCollum, Ms. Reynolds' uncle, asked for leniency for Mr. Gregory. Defense attorney Steve Hanna read the letter from Mr. McCollum, in which he called Mr. Gregory an unwilling accomplice with Sarah Kolb. He wrote after visiting with his pastor and Mr. Gregory, Mr. McCollum found the Lord was working in him. Tony Reynolds. Adrian's adopted father said Mr. McCollum's letter created no rift in the family. His main concern was that Mr. Gregory got the maximum. Doesn't feel like I won anything for sure, Mr. Reynolds said tearfully following the hearing. Still to be sentenced in the case is Sarah Kolb, 18 Milan, who earlier was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of concealment of a homicide. She is to be sentenced Aug. 18 and faces up to 60 years in prison. Ms. Reynolds, January 21, 2005 death shocked and captivated Quad Cityans. She was initially reported missing by her father and stepmother, Tony and Joanne Reynolds. Ms. Kolb, Mr. Gregory, and a third teen, Nathan Gaudette, were arrested a few days later after Mr. Gregory led police to the girl's burned and dismembered body on a Mercer County farm and in Black Hawk State Historic Site. Both teens now are convicted of strangling Ms. Reynolds in Ms. Kolb's car in a Taco Bell parking lot in Moline. Prosecutors theorized Mr. Gregory held Ms. Reynolds' arms while Ms. Kolb choked her. Then they strangled her with a belt. The two then took Miss Reynolds' body to a farm in rural Mercer County where it was burned and dismembered. Mr. Gaudet admitted to helping dismember and burn the body at the Mercer County farm. Mr. Gaudet pleaded guilty to a juvenile count of concealing a homicide and is serving an indeterminate sentence at the Illinois Youth Center in Harrisburg. He testified at both of Miss Kolb's trials. During her trial, Ms. Kolb testified that Mr. Gregory killed Ms. Reynolds. Mr. Gregory told Ms. Reynolds' parents he was in the car at the time of her death but didn't kill her. Terms of the April 27th plea agreement. Gregory to plead guilty to a single count of first-degree murder. Sentence on the murder charge will be between 20 and 40 years. Murder sentence will consecutively to sentence for concealing a homicide. Gregory will meet with Ms. Reynolds' parents to explain his role in murder. A second count of first-degree murder will be dropped. Mercer County will not file dismemberment of a body charges against Gregory. Friendship turned fatal. The murder of Adrian Reynolds. In January 2005, the quiet town of East Moline, Illinois, became the setting for one of the most disturbing crimes in recent memory. A case that shattered the illusion of teenage innocence and revealed how jealousy, resentment, and manipulation could lead to unimaginable violence. Adrian Reynolds was just 16 years old. She had recently moved from Texas to Illinois, looking forward to a fresh start. Outgoing, confident, and eager to fit in, she began making friends quickly at her new school, Black Hawk College Outreach Center. Among them were two upperclassmen, Sarah Kolb, a charismatic but controlling figure in the social circle, and Corey Gregory, a quiet young man who seemed to orbit Sarah's every move. But beneath the surface of this seemingly normal teenage friendship lay an undercurrent of tension. According to those who knew them, Sarah didn't take kindly to anyone who challenged her dominance. When Adrienne began forming her own friendships and allegedly grew close to people Sarah considered hers, resentment began to build. Rumors swirled and jealousy soon took root. On January the 21st, 2005, the three teens arranged to meet during lunch. Adrienne thought it was a casual hangout, a chance to clear the air. She got into Sarah's car with Corey in the back seat. The conversation quickly turned heated. What started as verbal accusations escalated into violence. In the midst of the shouting, Sarah attacked Adrienne. Corey, by his own admission, held Adrienne down, while Sarah strangled her. The struggle ended with Adrienne lying lifeless in the passenger seat. What followed was almost as shocking as the killing itself. Instead of panicking or seeking help, Sarah and Corey decided to dispose of Adrienne's body. They drove to the home of a friend, Nathan Gaudet. There they carried out a gruesome plan, dismembering Adrienne's body in Nathan's garage and burning the remains in a fire pit to destroy evidence. For days, Adrienne's family reported her missing. Her absence set off alarms among classmates, and soon rumors about Sarah and Corey began circulating. The police investigation moved quickly, gathering testimonies from witnesses and friends who had seen Adrienne get into Sarah's car that day. When confronted, Corey eventually confessed, leading investigators to what was left of Adrienne's remains. The details that emerged in court painted a chilling picture. Prosecutors described Sarah as the dominant personality, with Corey acting as her loyal follower, willing to do whatever she asked. Corey admitted his role in restraining Adrienne and helping to cover up the crime, but claimed Sarah was the mastermind. In 2006, Sarah Kolb was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Corey Gregory pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and concealment of a homicide, receiving a 35-year sentence. Nathan Gaudet, who had helped dispose of the body, received a lighter sentence for his role. The murder of Adrienne Reynolds became a cautionary tale, not just about teen violence, but about the dangerous dynamics of toxic friendships and blind loyalty. The case drew national media attention, featured in documentaries and true crime shows, each retelling highlighting the tragic loss of a young girl who had only just begun her life. For Adrienne's family, justice brought a measure of closure, but no verdict could undo the pain. Her stepfather described her as vibrant, ambitious, and full of potential, a teenager who dreamed of becoming a welder and one day starting her own business. Those dreams were extinguished in a single senseless act. The community of East Moline was left grappling with uncomfortable questions. How could two seemingly ordinary teenagers commit such a horrific act? Were there warning signs that were missed? And perhaps most haunting of all, could something like this happen again? Today, nearly 2 decades later, the case remains a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving. The smiling faces of Sarah Kolb and Corey Gregory in yearbook photos now serve as a chilling contrast to the cold brutality of their crime. And the memory of Adrienne Reynolds endures a young life forever frozen in time, a symbol of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of misplaced loyalty. Corey Gregory's 35-year sentence and Sarah Kolb's life without parole ensured they would never again walk free, but for Adrienne Reynolds' loved ones, no punishment could erase the loss. Her family continues to remember her, not for the brutality of her death, but for the vibrancy of her life, a teenager with big dreams, a bright smile, and a future that should have stretched far beyond 16 years. The case left a permanent scar on East Moline, a reminder that darkness can hide behind familiar faces and that loyalty without conscience can be as dangerous as malice itself. Today, Adrian's story stands as both a cautionary tale and a call to speak out against toxic relationships before they spiral into tragedy, because sometimes the deadliest threats come not from strangers but from those we think we know best.